guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. So, it's Monday, and it's Answer Monday. So I was going to do the countdown days, right? But in my haste, because I got so excited about today's episode, I forgot to do the days. So tomorrow on Q&A Tuesday, I'll just let y'all know the countdown days that's on for conference. See, I still said it right. So I want to thank everybody, first of all, who participated and who sent in their answers, and I really appreciate it. And I want to encourage more people to don't be afraid to send in your answers, because we're all here to learn. And this is stuff that I really wish that I would have had in the beginning when I started. Okay, so I never judge anybody when it comes to coding. I like to help. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And now is the time to learn now, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the answer, and then I'm going to give you the rationale as to why or how I came up with these answers, okay? So, ready? So the first one is uncontrolled diabetic type 2 on insulin and metformin. So the code that I got was E11.65 and Z79.4. So those are the only two. The long-term use insulin, it was that Z79.4. So when a patient is on both a oral hypoglycemic drug, which is like metformin, and insulin, in a type 2 diabetic, you're only going to code the insulin. And if you had looked in the index and then you looked it up in the tabular section, it tells you right there on the tip that you only code, if the patient is on both, that you only code the insulin, the long-term use insulin. So that's something to pay attention to, because there's a lot of diabetics and a lot of them are on both kind of medications. So you always want to make sure that you're coding these things correctly. And that's one of those ones that was like one of the perfect things. When I thought about it later, I was like, that's a perfect example, because if you're not paying attention, you would have picked up both the insulin and the long-term oral hypoglycemic drug. And I've done it before until I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, I better stop doing that. So yeah, if you look, you got to pay attention to both. So that was a perfect example for that particular scenario. Okay, so the second one is chronic kidney disease stage 2 with hypertension. I got I12.9 and N like Nancy 18.2. So the reason that I bring this chronic kidney disease stage 2 and hypertension, anytime the patient has chronic kidney disease and hypertension, it does not matter what stage they are in for chronic kidney disease. If they have both chronic kidney disease and hypertension, you're always going to use that combination code. Now, I did not know this in the very beginning when I very first started, so that's something that you have to pay attention to. Unless the provider states that one has nothing to do with the other, then you would not put them together. You would not use the combination code, but you are always going to use a combination code. Even if it's not documented that they are together, you're going to code them together. But if it specifically says that one has nothing to do with the other, then you can code them separately. But other than that, you will always code them together as that combination code. Okay? All right, so number 3 is both bone mid-forearm fracture on the right closed due to a slip and fall on the ice. And I got S52.301A, S52.201A, and W000XX. So the reason that I bring this one up is, okay, this is where it's important to understand that their providers are going to use more than one word to describe the same thing. So the way that it's written here is both bone mid-forearm fracture. Now, I did this on purpose because if you look at the description of those two injury codes, it says it's of the shaft. Well, we know when we're looking at these bones right here that that the middle of it is the shaft of the arm. Okay, they have the distal end, proximal end, and this is the shaft. So you want to make sure that you understand your anatomy and you understand like directional words. So like proximal is anything that is most closest to you. Distal obviously is anything that's far out. So because I said mid forearm, we know this right here in the middle, right? So this is the shaft section of those two bones. So that was how I came up with that. And I think it's very important to understand that, like I said, sometimes providers are going to use different words to describe the same thing. So you have to be ready for it. And that's one of those detailed things that you really got to pay attention to. This is why anatomy is so important. Not just disease processes, but anatomy is very important. So just keep that in mind, and I will continue to throw those out there like that, those little weird ones, so that way you can know those words to look for, and you can get sharper as you're looking at these different diagnoses. So sometimes it helps to have a different perspective and a different point of view, because I'm not just going to use the same words that's in this book. You can use different words to describe the same thing. So this is why I want y'all to start looking at those things and keeping those things in mind. Okay? So, all right. So then the next one, number 4, is plantar fasciitis. I got M72.2, which, okay. So if you go into your index, right, and you look up, let's just say you looked up plantar first, obviously you're not going to find it. Okay, so what you're going to do if you have a situation like that is you're going to look for the action word, which fasciitis is an action type word. So you would go with fasciitis, and then you would be able to look it up from there. But when you go to the actual title of this M72.2, it says plantar fascial fibromatosis, but right underneath it, it says plantar fasciitis. So when it says something right underneath it, like it's just regular text, you know that that's covered underneath that code. So that's just another thing to look at. That's another, like, where they're using different words to describe the same thing. But if you have that one book that I was talking about before, about the like the breakdown of it's a coder desk reference for diseases, and it talks about the breakdown of all these different codes, and it talks about how that code covers plantar fasciitis as well. So that's just another thing. Sometimes it's not always going to look like you think it might look. Unfortunately, I don't know why. That one just doesn't have its own, and it's together with that one. I don't know. I mean, that's just the way that it came out. So, but it is covered by that. So just keep that in mind. Again, looking up stuff in the index and then coming back into the tabular and looking at it that way, it'll explain a lot of those things as well. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so number 5 is bilateral osteoarthritis of the knee. Now, I got M17.0. So this is a perfect example of a single code covering a bilateral condition. So I talked about this before in a couple of other videos back. Sometimes there is one code that covers bilateral conditions, and sometimes there's just 2 codes. I mean, there's really kind of no rhyme or reason. I've noticed that a lot of neurological conditions have a bilateral code, which makes sense to me. But like sometimes if they have like if they have carpal tunnel, there's a bilateral code for that. So, but like osteoarthritis of the hand, it'll go right in the left. So why not have a bilateral code? There's no bilateral code for osteoarthritis of the hand. You know, it's always going to be right and left. So for whatever reason, they've come up with, they have it as one code. If the patient has bilateral osteoarthritis of the knee, it's going to be M17.0. Okay, so sometimes you might see providers code both the left and the right because they don't know that there is a bilateral code. So that's a good time to, if the provider is the one selecting the diagnosis, because, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but that is something that does happen, where the provider is the one that's selecting the diagnosis and the coder is the one that goes in and just sort of audits or adds diagnosis where it's applicable, or takes out diagnoses that are not applicable to that encounter. So we're always kind of looking at their diagnosis selection. So if you see that your provider is continually picking a left and a right code, it's wonderful, because you know that they're picking their laterality. But if there's a bilateral code, just let them know, because sometimes they don't know, and like I said, there's sort of no rhyme or reason about it. It's just something that just happens. So that was just one of those ones. So okay, and the final one, number 6, type 1 diabetic on insulin. I got E10.9, and that's it. So notice I did not pick up the insulin. So type 1 diabetics are going to be on insulin. That is something that is expected of a type 1 diabetic. So you don't have to pick up the insulin use on that one. There's even a note in here that says that this category does not have to use an additional code for long-term use insulin, Z79.4, but sometimes some facilities, they may want you to pick it up just for statistical purposes, but for the most part, you don't have to pick it up. When the patient is a type 1 diabetic, it is presumed that they are going to be on insulin, so that you don't have to pick up that code. Okay, and I tried to look for something specific on it, but I couldn't find anything on it, but it does say it in the book, and it says it in nosology that you can pick it up if it is like for statistical purposes, that kind of thing. But for the most part, you don't have to, not with type 1 diabetics. Okay, so it's just these little rules that, and it's very quirky, and after a while you will learn them. So that's what makes it so fascinating, and you never kind of get bored with it, because it's just like you learn something all the time. So like I said, I had a lot of fun with this one, and I can't wait till, till the next one, because I already have something planned. So with Fridays, if you guys want to do another set of diagnosis codes, questions, like a quiz, let me know. If you want to just stick to diagnosis for right now, or if you want me to do procedures next. So just let me know, comment below, or shoot me an email. I will be putting the answers, like I said, in the description box. And I will make sure that I put my email on there as well. And that way, you guys can just let me know what your thoughts are. And if this was it easy for you? Let me know. Was this too easy for you? Was it too hard? Is there something else? Is there some more explanation that I can give you guys? Let me know, because this communication is great, So, I made a couple of other notes here. Oh, and so, like I said, I'm excited about next Friday, or this coming up Friday, because it's just like, what else are we gonna do? Because after a while, I do want to do a modifiers challenge too, which I think is going to be really fun, but I don't want to jump the gun. So just tell me what you guys want, and I'll work with it. So, oh, and let me know if this was too many questions, or if you want 10 questions, okay? Because I think 5 questions is good, because I don't want to overwhelm you. But then I think, well, maybe that was just too little, should I make it 10? Let me know that too. So, and CEUs. So, I was doing research, right, for my credentials episode, right, that I want to work on, and it's turning out to be a little bit more work. But I just want you guys to think about those CEUs. So, I've been getting more questions about CEUs, and CEUs are continuing education units. Whenever you get your credential, you're going to have to do things to maintain this credential. It's not just you get a credential and then you're credential for life. This is a living credential. You have to feed it, and so in order to feed it, you have to give it continuing education units. And so, like, for example, I do my HIPAA training every year, and every year I get 1 continuing education unit for it. So in my reporting cycle, I'm able to report that CEU for you know, for to maintain my credentials. So, and different credentials are going to require a different amount of continuing education units. And because they do, some with different associations, it's different. The amount of CEUs is going to be different, because some are going to tell you, because if you have one credential, it's going to be this. If you have two credentials, you're going to have to come up with this many. So it's almost hard to kind of do an episode about that specifically. I'm going to still try, because I'm trying to work it together where it's going to make sense. Because I know that it's like a lot of information. This is it's I don't want it to be like a fire hose information thing where you're just like, at the end you're just like I want it to be where it's easy to understand. But if you're in school, you guys are a long way from worrying about CEUs. And I would not worry about CEUs right now if I were you, if you are in school. Just concentrate on learning your medical coding. That's the biggest thing right now. All the other stuff, the association fees and your credential maintenance and all this other stuff, worry about that later. Got to put one foot in front of the other and just worry about learning medical coding. Then you can worry about continuing education units later, because it's not like you have to do them all right away. Okay, so that's just something to think about. But if you already have your credential and you're wondering about continuing education units, each association has a dedicated group of people that you can call up and talk about that, because they would be able to answer it a lot better than I can. But like I said, I'm still going to work on that episode. Like I said, I'm still working on the episode for the credentials, because there are a lot of credentials, and I don't want to be like so much information where it's not going to sink in. So, but like I said, right now, if you don't have a credential right now, you're just in school, don't worry about continuing education units right now. Just worry about getting your education and working on understanding this, because as you can see from what we talked about today, it is a lot. You know, there's all these little rules and everything. This is why I'm telling you all to look at the book. When you're looking at the book, this book is going to be your best friend. And if you understand it, and even if you're just looking at it, your brain is soaking this information in. You don't even have to necessarily read it, but your brain is taking it in. And so when your brain takes it in, then as you get into it, you're going to be able to recall things a lot better. This is why I'm a strong advocate for writing your own flashcards out. This is why I'm a strong advocate for just looking at the book, so that you can make sure that you're able to take advantage of all of the information that you have in front of you to help you, because that's what's going to help you. Okay? So I have so many questions for tomorrow's Q&A. I'm very excited about that one too. So I've already made a list. It's like 2 pages. So, but if you have any more questions, let me know, and I will continue to accept questions until tomorrow. You know, I have very bad signal, so sometimes I'm not able to get signal right away. So sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It just depends. So if you have any questions, let me know tonight, and I can make sure that I include them in tomorrow's episode. So that's it for today, and I'm getting kind of long-winded because we're already at 18 minutes. So, but I hope you all have enjoyed this. Let me know, like I said, if this was too easy, if you want something harder, if you want a certain specialty, you know, I can work on that. You know, just let me know what you guys want. So I hope you all had a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for Q&A Tuesday. All right. And if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding as told by me, Bleu the Coder, or if you are a doctor or a nurse, please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.